All right. Hey, so this is a very special Sunday bonus. Chuck and I wanted to talk about locations for a long time, and I'm excited. We're close to a milestone on YouTube, and it's my birthday today. Well, if you're watching on
This
Sunday,
is this is a birthday present to you, Pete.
yes, it's a birthday gift to all of our fans, a little bonus.
Absolutely.
So it's exciting. Wow, Chuck. I mean, locations are so important, and I guess it always starts with what a location manager and scout. How important are those things to trying to find the proper places?
Well, the location, man, in television, they are kind of one and the same thing because to actually film anywhere, and I don't know if this has happened particularly for those who live in areas where there's a lot of filming. Um, you have to get the permission not only of the place that you're filming, but the places around where you're filming,
Mm,
because you're going to impact the neighbors. Because the choice where you make it in choosing a location, one of the most technical things that one has to consider is the most unglamorous, which is where do you park your trucks? And
right.
and you need to do it. So you park the trucks in front of other people's houses.
Yes.
So you definitely go around with that. And you also always need to be prepared for contingencies.
Hmm. Yeah.
Let's say you get a location, you're filming at a house that you've just done for the day. For instance, in the episode that we did the college episode where we did where the chancellor had the guest from the other country, and there
Yes.
was the Jana and all that. That house was in Hancock Park. And for whatever reason, we started filming and somebody started blowing an air horn.
Oh, great. Yeah.
And the reason they did that is because they wanted my location manager to walk over and say, how much do you want to stop blowing the effing air
Horn.
horn?
Right.
And I believe that we paid one time,
Yeah.
like $250. I don't think it was that show. I'm just picking that show at
I
random.
got
But
you.
it did happen one time to us. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
So because you're at a mercy. Although sometimes a director or producer will say in a movie, forget about it. We'll loop it. We're dubbing it. We're not going to give you the satisfaction.
Fair enough. Right.
Movies different from television in that
Yeah.
regard.
And you guys do definitely take over the block. You know what I mean? It's not like a small crew. Even a small crew is very large. So it's going
Right.
to be it's going to impact wherever you are.
They'll have multiple. It's not that the small crew is very light, but they will have multiple trucks. You got a
Exactly.
truck for makeup. You have a truck for wardrobe. You have a truck for electrics, and then you have a truck for camera,
I'm
and
sure
then you
that
have a
even
truck,
the crew,
and
the
then you just
cast
have a
has
truck,
their own little
right?
trailers and whatnot, right?
And then you have the star trailers,
Yeah.
and then you have a truck just to have a truck. So all the trucks are there.
Right. Yeah.
It's keep on trucking as it would be.
But the show's about Beverly Hills. How was Beverly Hills about, being attached
So
to?
those
Yeah.
of so those who know the show certainly, and know my relationship with the show, knows that I did not actively produce the pilot.
Mhm.
The pilot was presented to me. So my first thought in seeing the pilot was, why are they in Torrance High School? When I think of my high school, I'm in Beverly Hills High School. Let's see if why don't we film there? Maybe they weren't available in the pilot.
Sure.
And the same being true is I looked at the Walsh house and realized it was unsatisfactory for two reasons. One is the house was incredibly ugly
Mhm.
and was just available, and that's why they chose it. We could do much better. We could do one that was more user friendly, even to the point of having the shared bathroom. So we
Right.
could have so many scenes in the bath. That wasn't in the other house. And I knew that would be a good thing for twins. But the other thing, the real reason I didn't want to use that house is because the flatlands of Beverly Hills have sidewalks. The flatlands of the valley, the San Fernando Valley, where this house was, do not have sidewalks. And I'm not usually a stickler for authenticity. I'm ready to slide. If I was, I wouldn't have had three different actors play Kelly's father. If I
Right.
was so,
Yeah.
I mean, you do what you need to do. but I just couldn't go with that. Being a native of Beverly Hills, it was, something very distinct and separated. So
Right.
that mattered to me a great deal. And when you started looking for a place that had sidewalks, hello, Altadena.
Yes. Yeah.
But your question, the other question about Beverly Hills, and it was about the high school, of course. And what I didn't realize at the time was how angry the Beverly Hills Board of Education was at the Fox Broadcasting Company, specifically to Barry Diller, who was running the outfit. Barry Diller was a proud alum of Beverly Hills High School,
Mm,
a few years older than me. He and Candy Spelling were there at the same time. I'm no.
interesting.
And
Yeah.
and he, so it always mattered to him, and he always thought Beverly Hills would be a good. He stayed in Los Angeles. He was a show business, legend even before he became into the internet. And he, wanted to find ways to use that with the young network, and so he made a licensing deal with Beverly Hills High School
Mm,
so that they would. And I don't know if I wasn't privy to any of that. What I do know is that when he put the class of Beverly Hills into development
mm.
with Aaron Spelling and Darren Starr, what he did was he canceled licensing agreement with the city of Beverly Hills.
Oh boy.
And there was an immediate, once the show was ordered, once we were picked up, there was an immediate lawsuit.
Yeah.
And that's why in high school, you have every single episode make a differentiation between Beverly and West Beverly, that we would say both of them, and to make the distinguish that there was one school and our school was different.
Right.
And I remember, so the kids at Beverly Hills High School, as you can imagine, were livid about this.
Sure.
And they were really, and they were especially angry because this was the year we were doing this, 1990. The city of Beverly Hills, the once vaulted school system of Beverly Hills, was really suffering and
Mhm.
had to lay off teachers, and their tax base was shrinking, all sorts of issues. And they thought I was perpetuating a fantasy that here's this lavish high school that has no problems like that.
Right.
And I remember finally at the end of the first season, I go to them. They asked me to come in and be interviewed. It was Beverly Hills High School, so they had their own television station in campus.
Right.
And they asked me, and I basically said to them, our school is not Beverly Hills High School. It's Palisades High School. I named every private school in LA, Brentwood, Crossroads.
Right. Right.
It's an amalgamation. And in all fairness, I said, talking about teacher salaries is not the most commercial attraction when you're really doing primetime entertainment.
Yeah.
But it affected everything we did relative to Beverly Hills. And so I'd like to throw out something to who's ever listening to this recorded. The first person who contacts Pete with the right answer to this question will come on the show for exactly. a time. And this is what the question is. We in the high school years, we shot only twice in the city of Beverly Hills, and we shot at the same location. Tell me the location and tell me the 2 episodes that we shot.
All right. So there you go. You can send that to me at peter@beverlyhills90210show.com, and someone will win a chance to pop on with us coming soon. Yep. So that's pretty exciting, man. Yeah, it's a good one. I can't wait to find out what the answer is. We'll have to tune in on Thursday, and we'll let you know. So Altadena became Beverly Hills because of sidewalks, essentially.
Well, that was the one thing, and we knew when we started, we also didn't really have a place to be a studio. Mm-hmm. The Spelling Entertainment was on a studio lot. It was called Warner Hollywood. It was right there on Santa Monica Boulevard and near La Brea. The old line, smaller studio. Um, and I very much remember the telephone call that I made to the head of the facilities, who had just taken us, my staff had been hired, and here we were, and we're in offices, and it's a Thursday, and we get a note about everybody goes about 2 o'clock that day. I stay in the office, of course. All the writers leave. I stay in, and we get a note saying that there'll be no reason to come into the office on Friday because that's moving day, and everything that you have will be at your new office in the new spelling building. So I call the guy up and I say, "So where are our offices going to be in the new spelling building?" Pause, pause, pause. Let me call you back.
Oh boy.
And it
Yeah.
was the fact is, right from the start, 2 weeks into starting the job, we slipped through the cracks. I
Wow.
don't we had no offices.
No office. Right.
And so where we were ultimately housed
Mm.
was in a very strange post-production facility where they edited Twin Peaks. Because if you remember in the pilot, dance, that it wasn't just spelling entertainment. There was this very other hip company called Propaganda,
Yes.
and they supplied. They were involved with Twin Peaks, so they found us this little space way in the back. And I remember E. Duke Vincent coming to visit about a week into it, and looked around, and he knew this was not acceptable, not professional. And the spelling office at 5750, which fans will know as the establishing shot of Melrose Place,
Mm.
that was became our place from which to find all the other locations that we had to use. And once we locked down, once spelling said, we own some warehouses out in the valley. Oh, by the way, then that nothing, we have to clear them all out, and none of them are soundproofed. But you'll find your house to be situated near them. And Pete lives out. I think you still
Yeah, I
live
live
out
in
in
Altadena.
Altadena. So
Yeah.
you know that the lifeline of Pasadena and Altadena to get into places is there are a couple of freeways, and one of them is called the 210.
Yes.
And it kind of runs north of the city of Los Angeles and swoops down. So it wasn't that far by how a crow flies.
Got it.
But in a practical sense of driving freeways and traffic, it was a whole day. You went there, you had to stay there. There was nowhere else. You better have 7 pages to shoot that day,
Yeah.
or why bother? Um, and I did some of the math before to
Yeah.
try to do it. And the studio to the Walsh house was 27 miles.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Studio to the
uh,
Walsh House. What?
that's where in the middle heart of Van Nuys, Altadena, 27 miles. It wasn't the most. The most what wins is Torrance High School
Yeah.
to the Walsh house. And so I had an aversion. I mean, there was an aversion to be at Torrance High School, but it was, especially for any of you guys who played high school sports. I played baseball for Beverly High, and we played at Torrance High School. They were a team we played against. And so
Yeah.
to go down there and have this be embraced as Beverly Hills
Yeah.
was
Mhm.
was a little strange, and didn't know, of course, all the opportunities, the beauty of filming at Torrance High School, how much we could film outside. And one of the reasons that it really played into what we needed is that we didn't need to ever go inside where they were. I think if once in a while, maybe we went into their auditorium. I'm sure we did, not in year one, but after that. Oh, we did. No, I
Yeah.
take that
Yeah.
back. We did, of course, for Isn't It Romantic?
Right.
But,
Yes. Mhm.
otherwise, I don't think we went inside anytime because we started to build our sets. And the sets that we built originally were the Walsh house, which
Yep.
entrance, kitchen, kid's bedroom, and the adjoining bathroom. Now, I do think most of you know about that location, that when you walk up the steps and go to the top of the stairway, the bedrooms aren't there. The bedrooms are separate. They're not built, they're not attached, and they have their own. So we had those 2 Walsh houses. We had the old Peach Pit, the one that was really cramped and developed um, to dovetail with an establishing shot of a great old LA diner kind of restaurant, the Apple Pan.
Yeah.
Peach Pit Apple Pan. Couldn't get the rights to the Apple Pan, so I said, okay, we're going to call it the Peach Pit. But that was the format. So we built that small set, and then we built another small set, which was Kelly Taylor's bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
You remember she had the silks on it and the red thing, and we had that pretty much early. It was a swing set, but it was built, and we could put it up or take it down anytime we wanted. And then the other was the school itself. And where the school was and where the Walsh house was were right next to each other. Neither was soundproofed in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you couldn't do work on improving the set in stage 2 if you were shooting on stage 1.
So only one thing at a time could you do.
In other words, it was kind of like being Houdini. You know, they put you in a jacket and said, okay, here's this problem, now get out of it. And we did, but those were the first, locations. And pretty much the irony of trying to find locations in Los Angeles are the places where the people who made their money in the film business or television business, where they live, Malibu, Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, actually,
right,
make it so difficult to come in and film there. Because it is that term, that NIMBY, not in my backyard. Right, yeah. But certainly Malibu was the most hypocritical, because we were able to shoot, if you remember, fans, in season 4, we had 2 shots. We shot at a beach house, before going back to, we didn't do summer episodes, but we wanted a little bit of the feel of summer.
Right.
And this was, Brenda had gone to Minnesota and we were on a beach. Well, that beach house was notorious because the guy who lived there would rent to film companies. And it was the last house before the very exclusive gated Malibu colony, where celebrities from the Eagles to Pia Zadora to whoever, people with money, that's where they lived. That was the heart blood of Malibu at the time. And they were not very happy that we were next door.
I can't even imagine. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was Beverly Hills, and then Santa Monica. Now, Santa Monica is an interesting city for a lot of reasons here in Los Angeles. With Santa Monica, which is where we filmed the Beverly Hills Beach Club.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And we would use the pier on occasion. If you remember the last episode in this first season, when we went on the carousel.
Yes.
Where Gabrielle's on the carousel, and you can have me, that moment. Well, that's a famous carousel on the Santa Monica pier. And boy, was my producer, Paul Wagner, unhappy about that. Because at that point when we were filming there, that was probably the epicenter of the gang problem of all of Los Angeles or West Los Angeles, even more than Venice at that point. And they would come up there. And so, hi, we're the film crew. We have to come through. Yeah. But, we had security and we did that. But Santa Monica itself, the thing about Los Angeles is it was always about the politics was always about real estate and who could live there.
Yeah.
So Santa Monica and Bel Air, very rich neighborhood right next to Beverly Hills, were back in the day restricted. Mm-hmm. There were restricted covenants, no people of color, no Jews, no that. Mm-hmm. And so that, although we're talking many, many years later, there's still, at least in Santa Monica, at least in those years, was still a little arm's length to people who were not taxpayers in the city of Santa Monica.
Yeah.
So when we get the mandate to say, hey, we're going to be doing summer episodes, and those of you who listen, go back to one of our early ones with Sandy Grustow, when he said, we're going to do the Beverly Hills Beach Club. Let's do that. Let's, about the Flamingo Kid.
Yeah. I love
and that was what he said. Now, one of the reasons that I jumped on it is because I knew that there was a beach club that had been closed down.
Mhm.
Santa Monica had 4 beach clubs: the Bel Air Beach Club, the Ocean Beach Club, the Jonathan Club, and something called the Sand and Sea Club. Sand and Sea Club, oddly enough, was located right next door to Tees Beach. And Tees Beach, every high school had a beach in the 60s. They went to their, everyone had their own. And basically, it was each beach had their own concession stand. And Tees Beach, the name of the concession stand was Tees. And so, hence called Tees Beach. And of course, the Beverly Hills Beach would be right next to a private club where where a lot of the kids at the day of the beach, well, we can shower there and let's get better food over there. And they had that. Not my parents, we weren't members, but there were some. And it had a swimming pool, and it was a rundown. It was actually the once home of Marion Davies, who was William Randolph Hearst's wife.
Okay.
And girlfriend, first, girlfriend and then wife. And it was so they get closed down because there's a guy who wants to build a hotel there.
Mm.
And they do something, they say your pipes aren't any good, the water system, it's going to cost all this money. And so they have to shut it down. And because it's municipal, because it's on account of the beach, the voters of Santa Monica have to vote for it.
Yeah.
And they were not about to
No.
give a boutique hotel the go-ahead, and voted it down. And it was sitting there 3 weeks later, Sandy Grushow says, do it at a beach club, and I know there's one available.
Wow. Interesting.
So we had our first scout there, and there was it was a new regime. This is the second season. Mm-hmm. So there were some new people. And we had a new unit production manager named Jim Wetherall, who whose wife also had worked on the show. Jim was a little older, very good friends of Duke Vincent. And he was a crew cut, and he looked like a Marine. And to him, doing production was going to war. Let's get it moving. Let's do it. And he was we got along great in the 2 years we got to work together. And this woman from Santa Monica is telling him all the restrictions that we have. Can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, can't do this, in terms of revamping it. And we're on a tight schedule. Remember, the summer episodes came out of nowhere, sure, and we had to be ready to shoot. This was going to be shot on the first one if we're going to establish it. And we had to buy all the different kinds of furniture and different props for it.
You had to make it look like the beach club. You had to make it
exactly.
It was not alive. Yeah.
And we've told the story here when we were editing Spring Dance that both Darren Star and I ended up in Hawaii at the same time because we knew we weren't going to get any vacation and had to be there. And we stayed at a luxury hotel, the Four Seasons, a luxury hotel. They had the best beach chairs I'd ever sat in. Those are the beach chairs at the Beverly Hills Beach Club.
Oh, wow.
We bought them from Florida, and they got shipped.
Amazing. Yeah.
But this lady, she was so terrible. She just was so negative. So you can't do this, you can't do this. That I leaned into my unit production manager and whispered, Jim, please make sure I never have to hear her voice. And then I went on my merry way to whatever administrative stuff I had to do that day.
Yeah.
But that was a tough location. And wouldn't you know it, in the first year that we have it, that first summer, season 2, was probably the coldest summer I can remember in LA.
Oh, and it does look like that. There's some scenes where, like, when Brandon's trying to become the lifeguard, right? He looks like he's.
Oh my God, that was a freezing morning. And because we get something here in Los Angeles called June gloom.
Yeah.
And our show was debuting in early July. We're filming in May. So it's June gloom personified. But it didn't even warm up the rest of the summer. It just was cold times. So,
in terms of the Walsh house, Dylan's house, for those that don't know that have never been to Altadena, Dylan's house is right down the block from the
Right.
Walsh house. Was that convenience, or was somebody like, oh my God, I love that house? How did that one?
Oh, no, no, total convenience. In fact, convenience matters a lot. Here are some locations that were very close to our facility in Van Nuys. The Sanders house.
Yeah.
We filmed as a practical house. We went in there. We never. Yes, we did. We once built his bedroom in Chucky's back. That was a set.
Yeah.
But in the living rooms and things, we went to a house. That was in Encino. That was just down the block. Same thing with the Taylor house.
Yeah.
Jackie Taylor's house. Those were right nearby. And anytime, and I'm pretty sure, without telling you exactly where it is, that so was the Martin household, because it was always a question of convenience. You got to make your days. You don't make your days. You got to figure out how to reshoot it or let it go. And I think that with us, we maybe had 3 to 4 episodes that we didn't make our days. And I'll reveal at least 3 of the 3 I know on hand. We didn't make our days on the Real McCoy. We didn't make our day on Vegas, the Vegas show. And we definitely didn't make our day on the Dreams of Dylan McKay. And when we talk about that one down the road, I'll talk about the 8 hours I spent on the day before and the same day as the Rolling Stone concert to try to make heads or tails of what had a lot of material that wasn't shot.
Yeah.
But those are the only 3. So we worked really hard to make our days and stuff. And one of them is that you're not burdened by having to move your trucks. You're not burdened by having to go to a far location. For instance, when we did the Ashes to Ashes, the house we used crossed the street. And we'd go to that house every once in a while. I know that I saw it recently when we did one of the Diva episodes, and they meet at a pool and talk. That was across the street from the Walsh house, only because we needed it. We needed to make that. We needed to have an extra page to shoot.
Yeah. And then the Peach Pit does develop and change, but the Peach Pit that I think we all know at the end is the one that's in Pasadena, I think, right? The exterior of it anyway.
Yes, that was all Paul, and that was really a gift. I mean, with Paul Wagner coming to me and saying, we're going to make this better. We're going to open this up, because one of the things, and I think I mentioned it at one point, because we had so little money, and it does affect everything in certainly those first 2 seasons, that we would build sets that were very difficult to shoot in. Mm-hmm. If you think of a set, if anybody thinks of a 4-wall set, you can pull one out and put the camera there, and you get a different angles in there. Well, I went along with the fact when the first art director we had, a wonderful, very talented woman named Michelle Minch, who came from propaganda world, that if you couldn't, like for instance in the Walsh kitchen, if you couldn't pull the walls out, then you had a shot going one way, you had a shot going the other way, and you had a shot going the other way. Well, so we didn't have enough money, but I could rationalize it that I have just limited the director's choices. And by limiting the director's choices, he or she will have to move faster.
Yeah.
They won't have as many time to deliberate. Should I do this shot? Should I do this shot?
Right.
And so there were all these things, because it was very, very important to make our day. And probably one of the happiest days of my entire tenure there at 90210 was the first day of shooting, where we were behind. And because the director shot it in a certain way he did, we made the day. And the spelling company couldn't come back to me, Duke Vincent, come back or say to Aaron, see, you get a guy here who doesn't know what he's doing, and this is what's good. But we made it, and we did a good job in making our days.
When you guys were write scripts, was there ever times when you were like, well, we can't go to the beach club and then shoot an exterior at the at the Walsh house because it's just so far. Like, do you ever think about things like that, or did you just write to write and then we'll figure out the schedule at another time?
Pretty much the latter. I mean, you know that if you're shooting at the Beach Club and the Walsh house, those aren't going to be at the same day.
Yeah.
But what you have to be prepared for is to change your location. To do the scene that you were going to have in the bedroom, instead it's a walk and talk in the backyard.
Yes.
Or you do something to make it work. And and you usually do have to change a couple of scenes. And of course, a couple of weeks ago when we talked about double ups, now you got two ones that things have to get changed. More locations were changed during double ups than any other time.
I believe that. Yeah.
You know,
that must have been tough. And then everybody goes to college, and we kind of talked about that a little bit, but you're looking for a college. Is Occidental College convenience as well? Or you had talked about Aaron having a whole other place where he wanted.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Occidental College is in the very northeast part of Los Angeles County, in a town called Eagle Rock. And just down the road from Eagle Rock is Altadena.
Yeah.
They're not that far apart.
No.
But oddly enough, once we started shooting at the university, we don't have that many exteriors at the Walsh house anymore. In fact,
No.
when people came to the Walsh house, what you got a lot was at the doorbell, at the doorway.
Yeah.
You didn't need the walk up, the ramp up. Only when Dylan drove into the driveway or Brandon did you really need that.
Yeah, unless it was specific to that.
Yeah, otherwise it was pretty much that, and we would shoot that right on the stage because we built the outside to be able to do that. And that I don't think we had that at the first episode necessarily first, but it was one of the early sets that had to be built.
Yeah, for sure.
The way around that one, and
you had to recreate it almost to look like the Altadena house, which is
absolutely. It was completely. It was Emily. Like, getting back to your question about California University. So those who know the story in 90210 know that there was Mr. Spelling was resistant to getting the kids out of high school. It hadn't been done before. He was worried about it, and he finally got placated. And was willing to do it, but was never really very happy about it. And one of the things that he wanted to do was put the university at a school up the coast on the Pacific Coast Highway called Pepperdine. Pepperdine's gorgeous university if you like that kind of thing. It's got a huge lawn that comes down to the Pacific Coast Highway. It's got some buildings. The beach is near and that.
Beautiful, yeah.
It's a fine place, but California University was not going to be Malibu U. It had to look like a state university college. And Occidental had a beautiful college, beautiful campus, big enough. I remember we took the tour of it. The only place that they kind of said, be careful. You have to get permission in advance to film and don't do it too often, was their chapel. So if you remember the episode, which we just talked about recently, and another bonus Pete special with Joshua Beckett, his memorial service was in that chapel on the campus.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
But everything else was, was the wide thing. We used the auditorium, and so this deal, we shot in the summers, we shot in the fall. We made the deal when we made the deal. And we go back to shoot on campus. And the students are furious. They had no input into this. And they don't like our show at all. They don't like our show because, hey, you know why they don't like our show? Because we are, the Caucasian Express as far as they're concerned.
Right.
It doesn't, our cast is not going to reflect the demographics of the college as they saw it. And certainly politically, it was becoming a little more of a political school, I guess. And we didn't fit into that primer. And so we had actually offered them to have students get intimately involved with our production. Who's interested in wardrobe? Who's interested in fabric? Who's interested in that? We have that. Who's interested in art? Who's interested in that? We have a department. You can come into that. Who's interested in all the different things? Who wants to be in the writer's room? Who's interested in the science of the sound waves and all the different things that do? And we would open it up to them. And that was greeted with a thud. They didn't see that as any value, but I saw it as a value of,
Definitely.
we make some friends on the campus. And the other, so what we decided to do was, and what I believe the chancellor at the time, who was replaced, I think he started in the 4th season, and I think he left at the 5th or 6th. I mean, I don't think he didn't go all 4 years, but he was there the 2 years that seasons 4 and 5. And the one thing that we knew we kind of had to do was to present ourselves as something that the students would like. And so from season 4, we showed them the 3rd episode, which was the first one that was going to be showing California, their campus.
Mm-hmm.
And who I got to come with me to face the students was my buddy Ian Ziering.
Nice.
Who was just, we were very close when we were making the show. He's a terrific guy, still in touch. And someday I think he will come on our show. Just
I think
not
so.
right
I hope
now.
so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so we go show up, and I remember the scene where they do the establishing shots and the titles of the campus. The auditorium, which was pretty filled, almost looked like the election of Josh and Brandon, which was filmed in there. A lot of people in there. They start clapping. They're erupting. They're very happy. That's the only moment they were happy the whole time. And Ian and I, we took a lot of questions.
Yeah.
A lot of insults. A lot of, and so it never really was a great relationship. It was, we were able to shoot in the area right there. So the Cake House and the Alpha House were right there. They were open to us, but those locations. But and unfortunately, the one question I can't answer: were they really fraternities and sororities? That I don't remember, and I don't think it was brought to my attention. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't, but they were like a block away from the college itself.
Yeah.
And so everything went fine. The 4th year, we were able to do whatever we needed to do. The 5th year season, we did this episode, Hate is a 4-letter word, in which we deal with the notion of some of the tensions that exist between the Jewish community and the African American community. Having Gabrielle Carteris be that, and this, and having a speaker who, might be anti-Semitic, might not be.
I love that.
Nonetheless, really one of my favorites too. I'm proud of that one from the 5th season. I know it was used in many classrooms, so that made me feel good about it. But we did have a moment where we had to put up swastikas.
Oh boy!
And the students we were not happy.
No,
they were not happy with our set dressing, and I think we lost some time filming that day to do a powwow. I don't remember if it was exactly a sit-in, but I do remember there was. I was kept abreast of the situation.
What about things like the radio station that David was hosting a show on? Is that shot at school, or is that just a set that you guys created? Or it was mostly the
I
school?
believe that was the school. I believe we got up to do that. The gym, of course.
Right. So you were utilizing the space quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely. We had to, because again, need to make your day.
Right.
And so we would be doing that.
And then you're picking a location for the girls and David to live in, like the beach house, right? How did you pick that location? And what was that like working with them?
So the compromise from not shooting at Pepperdine University was that the girls would live in a beach house. They wouldn't be dorm bound. They would have
Okay,
their
cool.
own
Yeah.
swinging apartment. We had Andrea in the swinging apartment. We had Andrea in the dorm in the beginning. Steve was in the cake house,
Yep.
and of course David Silver goes with the girls.
Right.
So we had Brandon's living at home and Dylan's living at home, and Valerie wasn't even there yet in the
Right.
forces. So Brenda's living at home. Well, come back from Minnesota, and she's living at home. So it was the only one we really had to think about. They wanted to film at the beach. Why they chose the South Bay is beyond. As I said to you, Malibu doesn't like you very much. Santa Monica's tough. Start going down the way, but you had Marina Del Rey.
Yeah.
You have Venice, where I live.
Yeah.
You have, there were other communities. They hopped the line, they hopped the channel, and we started going south. The one thing about Hermosa Beach is right next, which is where that apartment was, is right next door to Manhattan Beach.
Mm-hmm.
These were also communities that I played against as a athlete from Beverly Hills High School. And with Manhattan Beach and Hermosa Beach, Redondo Beach, and the Palos Verdes Peninsula, which really comprises the basis of the beach communities of the South Bay. Torrance has a little sliver, and then Hawthorne is in Torrance, so the inland places there. Hawthorne is where the Beach Boys grew up. But that's the South Bay. There's no show business in the South Bay. None. It started to happen because David Kelly built a studio down there, or revamped a studio, warehouses, and there is a studio now in Manhattan Beach, which is very convenient to the airport. It's a great place for a studio. It's just not where the studio moguls put their roots.
Right.
And it didn't have much show business in it at all. And nonetheless, we go down to Hermosa Beach in a formal way. We had a very good location scout. We had a different location manager for the first 2 seasons, and he was good too. But this person was really thorough and very professional. And we went to the city council, and I think we won 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
We go down and we shoot on the episode where they find it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you remember, there's the episode, just certain things like that we're focused on. And one of the neighbors, remember I told you got to get all the neighbors to sign, goes back to the city council and gets them to rescind it in 2 weeks, 10 days. So we've committed to it. We're writing for it.
Yep.
Built a set on in Van Nuys to have the inside of it.
Yeah.
Really probably our most problematic set we built. And the reason that is that we were running out of space.
Right.
And we still only had 3 warehouses, not the 4th warehouse, which is where the Peach Pit After Dark was located. And that warehouse you often see, that's the brick building where people used to park, even before the After Dark would park, and then, go in.
It's the Peach Pit parking lot, right? The Peach Pit's parking lot as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And but anyway, when we built the beach house, it was no space, and you could not film somebody standing at their front door and have the cameras and go both ways. You couldn't do it. You could shoot. If you were coming in the door, I could shoot you.
Yeah.
But I could never shoot the reverse of me answering the door. What was really disappointing to Paul Wagner, Gail Patterson, and myself, we were approached by the California State Film Commission to say, we want to take them to court. We want to do this. We need to not have so many restrictions placed. It's very important. Let's do this. And the Spelling Company was all gung-ho, but they maybe would have had to pay for a lawyer themselves or something. And so it went away, and we never proved the point. So it was, again, kind of a, we're tough. We're tough guys. No, we're really not. We're lambs, you know. And
Yeah.
it was disappointing because we should have made a point. It was very unfair what the city of Hermosa Beach did to a business that was paying for it. And by the way, we were limited for how much. I think we could only film there 12 times outside their house, maybe 12, 14 times. It was every other show.
Yeah.
Something we were not allowed to be there every day.
So minimum. So what you mainly did was you used the interior set when they were at the beach house for the most part. Yeah. The interior set that you created.
Completely.
Yeah.
And we always intended to, but we just didn't have as much beach stuff. So even if you think about let's in the fourth season, there's the moment where Dylan tries to teach Erica how to surf, and there's the scene where Dylan and Peter walk down the beach to talk about pollution and
Right.
different things. And that's all filmed in Santa Monica. We basically gave up on the beach. I remember we went back there when, at the start of season 5, I think the episode ends with a down and out Dylan McKay on the beach looking at his point of view shot of the beach house.
What about when Ray put all the pumpkins on the beach house? That's the set.
Our set.
Yeah.
Our set. We couldn't go near the building. We weren't allowed to.
It's crazy, right?
That was a very, very difficult one. One of the things that I failed to say right on the top is that I'm a native of Los Angeles. Right. I went to Beverly Hills High School. So it was very important for me to film my town in the places that I could when I could.
Cool. Yeah.
So some of the fun places that we got to go was Santa Anita Racetrack.
Yes.
Season 2. We went to the old, where LA was founded, called Olvera Street. And that's where when Dylan McKay was in the episode to find out what happened to Jack, and goes down there, and it feels very like a mystery. That filmed in Olvera Street.
Yeah.
It's when he finds out that the FBI, the real story, it's there. Get him intrigue. We filmed, of course, at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
We filmed at the planetarium, which is which was interesting because that's where Rebel Without a Cause was filmed.
Mm-hmm.
And we had dialogue passages with Dylan and Brenda, in which Dylan explains that this is where it was filmed, and it was, it's famous.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes the reference to the famous oh God, now I have a senior moment. James Dean on the scene. And Luke, at that point in his life, was really antagonistic about critics who would say, he looks like James Dean. He looks like James Dean. Because in those years,
that came up a lot.
Kind of did. And we had to change that dialogue. I acquiesced to Mr. Perry on that one because he had made it pretty clear that he was not ever happy about those
comparisons.
But I just was having them do a factual thing. But anyway, we filmed up there and loved that. It also was really important to me to when we made the show when LA was having all its warts. If you think about it, with the Rodney King situation, we had fires, we had OJ. So I wanted to always try to go to places to say, this is what it looks like. So you did see Brandon driving the Mustang down right past burned out buildings in the center city in season 3. In season 5, when Dylan goes to get his first regression therapy, remember that's you drive up Malibu and every other house has been burned. And the first conversation that he has with the therapist is, how come your house didn't burn down?
Yeah.
That was a really wild fire. Malibu was very lucky not to really burn on that one. I
Yeah.
mean, come to the beach and cross the highway, and that it was a never lived here all my life. Never saw a fire like that one in the regions that are more the city and not more outlying area. So that mattered to me a great deal. And then what was really fun about locations, Pete, was when we would go out of town. We didn't get to do it too much. And I'm the biggest one, of course, I'm going to leave for my buddy Larry Mullen, because the biggest location we ever did, of course, was Cabo San Lucas and the Palmilla. And that was the show where Dylan gets his money back. And that's when Larry will be leading us
together.
through.
Yeah, for sure.
But the two that we did to go out of town, of course, at the end was Palm Springs weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And up in San Francisco, when we for when Brandon drives north to see Emily.
Yeah.
In season 4, we did that. They ride the cable car. We get a beautiful view of them up in the hill, looking down. You can see the whole bay.
Yeah. And this week we're going to talk about Paris. You guys did not go to Paris.
And Paris, yes. No, we wanted to. We made the case to go to Paris, and 2020 hindsight, we were better off not going. They were right, because to go to Paris, to afford to do Paris, we would have just a shot, match it. That's it.
Yeah.
We got a lot of play, so we recreated Paris in the back lot of Universal. We recreated a part of Paris. If you guys know the Tuileries, the park is the Huntington Library out in San Marino. And it was a really beautiful time of year to be there. And you do with what you got to do. But the thing about a location is to remember is that they have to service your show.
Right.
We didn't get an episode in Dodger Stadium because there was never a reason to be there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I know that Larry particularly carried on that tradition in seasons 6 and 7. You had the Queen Mary, the Tournament House, other places that try to show this is the city. But after a while, and I think after way after, even after Larry and Jessica left, they did go to Hawaii for a little bit, and some pretty basic places.
Yeah.
But the aggressiveness of the show and the production changed as time went on.
Sure.
You want to spend the locations cost more money. They just
totally right. It's easier to just do it on your set, on your
studio. Yeah. Make it seem, yeah.
There's also some beautiful romantic spots, and I think that comes across in LA where Brandon and Emily go, right? That lookout makeout point that also Dylan takes her to.
And I just noticed in one of the episodes that we were watching that it wasn't the makeout stuff, and we're going to be talking about that in September. Yeah. But that location, we would use it because it was a good place to have an open view, and it was accessible.
Yes.
It was not the exact same location, by the way, if you remember, but it was the same street, Mulholland Drive, where Dylan drives his car off the road and goes down the mountain. Yeah. That was Laurel Canyon, and that also was Dan Attia's. And of course, Dan will, he's coming on
this week,
Thursday coming up from this one, and we're real excited because he directed some of the best ones, and he did 20 of them for us, including Commencement. We're not talking about Commencement because it's its own thing.
We'll get there.
But with that, we went up to the sign, the Hollywood sign, when it was in pretty much disrepair for years and years and years. They had just fixed it, and then we went up and did our thing up on the mountain. And that one, of course, was written specifically to we're going up there, Yeah. And without the location, we couldn't have done the bit.
Definitely. I mean, and you didn't have it. That was okay. That location was okay. The Hollywood sign.
Yes, because it really wasn't as traveled as much. It wasn't.
Now it's
the iconography. It was there from the start, but it really picked up once they fixed the sign. Yeah. And after Beverly Hills did its best numbers in the commencement episode and ended the third season. Maybe there was more interest because of that. I'll never know.
Probably. Well, you forget that it definitely, definitely affected pop culture and things of that nature. I know people still go around and check out all the houses and whatnot, which they're welcome to do, I guess, right?
Well, of course, we filmed at the universities that weren't Occidental. We filmed at SC, the homecoming episode where they
Yeah.
steal the mascot, and we filmed at UCLA. Even there was an episode early on. In fact, it was Paul Wagner's first episode, Jeffrey White's last episode, and it was called the 17-Year Itch, and had a twin study, and that was right at UCLA's campus as well. So we had to go out and use the city, and so many shows in Los Angeles, because they're cop shows, they show other parts of town, or drive into luxury, houses and things. We wanted to show what the city looked like, and I do remember, and I'll leave this me talking about this about shooting second unit, about shooting the establishing shots and the running shot and the stuff. And right in the first, before we went into production, I supervised the first shot because I was a documentary filmmaker like you, Pete.
Yeah.
So I love that, and I wanted to make it look real and new places. So we filmed on the top of got establishing shots on the top of the roof of the Bel Hotel.
Yeah.
If you notice, sometimes in the Beverly Hills montages, you'll see people walking in a park, coming in a walkway. I'm in that shot. That you can find me. Not as clear as when I'm in the limo with
Right, I
Sally,
love that scene. Yeah.
I'm in two other shots episodes as well, but that one, in that particular shot, and we drove when we went down Melrose and shot some places. We had the things we shot. And I remember we ended up back doing something at the Bel Hotel, and we were dropping things off there. And it was the day that they were doing the premiere of Evening Shade, which was a CBS TV show with Burt Reynolds, and it was MTM, and everybody's very dressed up, and it's very Hollywood, and they're with this ragged crew. And I'm the executive producer, and I'm as ragged as any of them, and thinking, boy, that's show business. We're something else.
Right.
I don't quite know what we are, but,
Lastly, man, I know you got to do a tour of some of this. Brian Green, they did a tour a year ago.
Larry and I, we went to the locations with super fans who came out for the 90210 festival that Brian Green and our buddy Darren Martin put on.
Yeah. What was that like for you? Was it fun to revisit those locations without all the stress of shooting something? Did it bring back some memories?
It was fun, only in the sense that it was fun to meet a real cross section of major fans.
Yeah.
And I just got an email yesterday from Louise from London, who was a friend, and we had correspondent people from Vancouver and Atlanta and Japan, and all over the map came to be with us in that air-conditioned van, and that was the highlight, I think.
Yeah. Well, this is great, man. I think this is a fun one, for a bonus episode for fans. I don't know if there's more locations that we can cover. I think we kind of rocked.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah. So as a birthday gift to
happy birthday
to the fans, this is our locations episode. Chuck, man, thanks for doing this. This was a lot of fun.
Fun to be with you. See you on next time, Wednesday.
It sounds good. All right, man.
All right, brother.